All right. So this is already the second cut of the second cut. Second cut meaning like I'm doing this second cut today. Third cut overall. So it's second cut. The second cut meaning so the last two books came in, and before like about a week ago when all but two books had come in, I was like, you know what? I'm still gonna film it. I don't care. And I just said what books were missing from the pile. But now that they're in, I wanted to film this again. So that was already second cut, but third cut overall because I messed up. So the first six books in this pile, sorry, first seven, not six, first seven books in this pile of multiple, I think at least, what was it? 31 books total. The first, no, not 31, less than that. Less than that. I think more like 30, maybe? No, actually less than that. So, one. No, 30. So 30 books total. The first seven are all original graphic novels. Meaning I'll be reading them all in one sitting. One is for my PC, so technically, like so six library books, one book for my PC, otherwise known as personal collection. First book up is Christos N. Gage's Area 10. Now, I'll be saying who the author is because this is the Image Comics authors pile. What I mean by that, well, I got everything, either I got everything from this author, that I'll be saying who it is, like Christos Gage, I have everything he's done for Image, or in the case of something like Kyle Higgins, I recently bought something from him. I don't have everything by Kyle Higgins that's out right now, but I recently bought something, so my interest was piqued again. So that's right. As I've been doing for a long time now, but fairly like for a long time now. But fairly recently, I've been making it one pile Image Comics authors, and then the other pile is miscellaneous. So that way, I can actually read something from Frank Miller and something from Philip Kennedy Johnson and Tom Taylor and all those other wonderful authors who just so happen to not have written anything for Image. No, I don't count the work for Spawn that Frank Miller has done, because I'm not collecting Spawn. Spawn is the one series I don't think you'll ever see on a comic haul of mine unless I get it from a friend or an Instagram friend, because there's just so many spin-offs. It's impossible to get into unless they make a definitive reading order compendium of Spawn that has all the spin-offs in it and chronological order, and even then it's gonna be a pain in the bitch. Maybe then I'll consider it, but again, even then it's gonna be a pain in the ass because because there's so many spin-offs. I'll have to wait not wait. It'll be like 20 years before we get to where we're at right now. But anyways, without further ado, let's get back into it. So, Area 10, Christos N. Gage. Next one up. So this one and the next one, or Area 10 and this next one, are honestly, actually, a lot of these are. I'm going in completely blind, but I like the author, especially for Christos Gage. The next book up is also by Christos Gage, and that is The Lion of Aurora. I would almost argue I'm going in more blind with this than I am with Area 10, because Area 10 I know is a crime graphic novel. Because they like to do these, mystery. But Vertigo had this line, I guess you could say, of books that were these smaller, like this pocket-sized graphic novels that were released. And I don't know where I was going with that. But a line of smaller sized graphic novels that were obviously mature rated and from Vertigo. I don't know where I was going. I knew what I was trying to say, but I felt like I had more to say. I don't know. But going back to Lion of Aurora, this one I'm going in more blind too. I guess it's maybe about samurais because of the sword here, but even then that doesn't look like a samurai sword. I just, for whatever reason, thought it was samurai. I don't know why. Maybe because I was flipping through it. No, not even then. Because I just found out like through looking through this, it's also in black and white. The Lion of Aurora, Christos N. Gage. Derek Kirk Kim, same difference. This was one that, because I didn't even know who Derek Kirk Kim was as a writer. But even then, like, you'd think, because I tried, about a few years ago, when I was starting to run out of books that I was interested in that my local library had, I started going to the ones that were like, let's skip this one for later. I have no real interest in reading like RX or this one or that one. I bit the bullet and read it, and some of my likes. RX I ended up liking. The Best We Could Do It I ended up really liking. Actually, I reread that pretty. I want to reread that pretty soon. It's been a long time since I've read that. And same difference. I guess I just always glossed over because I would have read it at that time, and since. But same difference. Derek Kirkham. Because again, it was a local library. So the first two are what's called interloan library books, and that means they get it from other libraries. But I get to pick it up at my local library, so I don't have to go to all these other libraries. It doesn't have to be redundant. It's not redundant. I don't have to go all over the place just to find the books I'm interested in reading. I think a bunch of libraries do that. So just try and explain it. I probably don't have to explain it because I'm sure you guys know what it is. Oh, and product placement time. I don't want to hold this like this for too long because I'll drop it. And it's the red Gatorade. And it's the red Gatorade. And it's the red Gatorade. It's even worse. I thought it would be funnier. This is written by Shannon Wheeler. And Shannon Wheeler for Image Comics. I'm just gonna mention this as once. It's kind of relevant to this book, but like his Memoirs of a Very Stable Genius from Image Comics, this has those pages like this that are like almost like those political cartoons where it's just text and a picture, no word balloons or nothing. There's text, typed out text under the pictures. And unlike Memoirs of a Very Stable Genius, it looks like this entire graphic novel is like that. I just flipped through a page that's different than that, but it's technically different. Where was it? I know it's past here. I know it's on this side. But that's perfectly fine by me because I'm trying to read through these original graphic novels first and foremost. So I get them out of the way, essentially, for this weekend. And then on Monday, I'll be starting on the rest of them. And that's because I'm still working on finishing up Avengers World and Gasolina. And the one book that was from the miscellaneous pile, Fire and Ice. I'm not going to show that book because it's not part of the... I don't want to get confused and it's gonna mix. I'm gonna be crossing the streams. I don't want to cross the streams. But those books I'm working. So Fire and Ice came out. It was it was one of those materials request books. It just came in like way later than I thought it would. Well, not later than I thought it would, but it came in. Actually, no. If anything, it's earlier than I thought it would come in. So there you go. But I was banking on it hopefully coming in either in the middle of when I was in the next pile of books, a miscellaneous pile, or right in between. But again, still working on Avengers World and Gasolina, and then of course Fire and Ice. And then we have two outstanding books. So I get to be 22 of the non-original graphic novels, the ones I read one issue of per day. And it was 24. It's okay. I don't only get being 24, so let's take out two of them, and then there you go. So I'm still working on a good amount of books, not too much, but I wanted because I knew it'd be filming today. I wanted to read something quick, but still finish up one of these original graphic novels. And this one caught my eye. Not caught my eye, but this one was like, oh yeah, let's do that one. But I did want to check this one. I did want to check this one out. I wanted to see how Shannon Wheeler is as an author, and hopefully he or she, actually, I know so little about him or her that I don't even know their gender. Let's see. He. Because Shannon is one of those names that could be a guy or a girl. I thought it was a girl at first, honestly, and then I was pretty much sure it was I was pretty sure it was a guy. But I wanted to double check to make sure. Cause I like knowing that I was right and my instincts were correct. Because usually they are, as I've learned the hard way in the past. Wonder Woman: The True Amazon, written by Jill Thompson. Never had heard about this Wonder Woman book. Like Same Difference by Derek Kim. This was one that I'm surprised I glossed over, because I was like with Same Difference. I was trying to check. I got kind of into a Wonder Woman kick, and I wanted to see whatever they had for graphic novels that was for Wonder Woman graphic novels. And this one, I guess I just never thought to look into. Or maybe I was just so caught on New 52 and Rebirth that I was just going back and forth between those. But no, there was a time, because I remember checking out that Wonder Woman one that was awful. I forget exactly what it was. I believe it was a Convergence book. It was kind of more geared towards kids, somewhat. But it was a 9-issue miniseries, but it was kind of way too wordy. And second of all, it was double-sized. Each of the 9 issues were double the length, and you really felt that length. But it was a long time ago, and again, I don't remember what exactly it was called. But I have thought off and on about rereading that. But anyways, Wonder Woman, the true Amazon Jill Thompson. A book I knew so little about that I almost thought it was a kid's graphic novel. Doesn't say anything about it being that. The artwork doesn't exactly scream kid-friendly. Like kid-friendly, I mean like the kiddie books. Like you have your Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello, but you also have like your Wonder Woman Junior graphic novel. Kind of like how they did Spidey's Super Stories back in the day. DC will have some books that are geared towards younger audiences. Think you're like your Looney Tunes, your Scooby-Doo, those kinds of books. Gone. This one is written and drawn by Jock, but Jock has done nothing for Image. Has written nothing for Image. He's just done artwork for Image. But it kind of technically maybe counts, and I kept forgetting to check out Gone. So I was like, you know what? I keep forgetting. It's actually in right now. Because at first it was just too new, and I just completely forgot about it. I want to say keep forgetting about it. I just completely forgot about it for like months afterwards, and I remembered. I was like, oh yeah, let's put that in, and I did, and I didn't mind. I was like, you know what? It counts because he technically did stuff for Image, but I count more writers. That's why I say written by, and I'll go over who the artist is. Even if the artist has done something for Image, I don't really count the artist. It's a writer that I count. Sure, artwork can technically make or break a comic, but not for me. Like, if the story is interesting enough, as long as it's not crayon drawings, like 12-ounce mouse, that Adult Swim cartoon no one knows about. So I would say just look it up. If you don't know what I'm talking about. But unless it's that bad artwork, then I don't really care. Or that amateurish of artwork, I really don't care. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, well, I wish the artwork was like this and like that, but it was less cartoony. But I still enjoyed and still end up liking the book itself, because I judge it based on its writing and other stuff. But which sounds insane, I know, because it's a visual medium, but I care more about story than anything else. Like, you can have really good artwork, but a shitty story and a shitty script. And I'm not going to give it a free pass just because it has good artwork. Because I judge the medium of comics and the medium of everything else, even movies, based off of the writing and the script and the pacing. That kind of, the story kind of stuff. The story related stuff. But anyways, Gone, written, drawn by Jock. Wait, I can put it over there. Beowulf. This is the last original graphic novel. Because I had read my little bump here. Already have some shelfware, or is this the broken one? Oh, this is the one that has a bunch of things wrong with it. There's like minor scuffing here and there, so I might actually get the one that's not in worse condition. I know it doesn't really matter, because honestly, like there was one time when I was going through my shelf. And I was like, wait, which one is Beowulf? Which one's the one that has the scuffing and everything like that? And I had to really look at that version of the book. I really had to look hard at that I guess you could say version of the book, because it was really hard, and I found it, but I was like, I cared that much about it. I got a second copy of the same book. But anyways, Beowulf, written by Santiago Garcia. So I had read Everyday Hero Machine Boy, which was an Image Comics original graphic novel for February, for March. I want to say it was for March that I started reading it, but I reviewed it on March 11th, but it was well after I had finished it. And I want to say it wasn't any more than 11 days. Maybe I started it. I may have read it on March 1st, but I don't want to say it was any earlier than that. I don't remember exactly what day it was, unfortunately. So I wanted to say, I was saying to myself, like, hey, you read one in March. You read an original graphic novel in March. Let's do one that you hadn't read before. Let's do an original graphic novel that you have read before. I won't be doing this every month. It's kind of a novelty. I was like, you know what, let's do that. And I picked Beowulf. I have read this before. It was phenomenal. So well paced that, it was one of those books that it was exactly what I wanted. I wanted the book to be fast-paced, heavy with the action, but you still care about the characters and still you can tell what's going on in the story and all that. And I got exactly what I asked for. And the Image does not usually do this for their soft covers, but like a huge oversized soft cover. Usually it's OHC, meaning oversized hardcover, but they decided to do it for soft covers. And I admire that, I guess you could say. That sounds really stupid, I know, but no, that was what I was looking for. I gotta give credit where credit is due. That was a word. That was the word. All right, so the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The first 12 are all rereads. Now, these rereads fall into 3 criteria. The first one being books like Dr. Aphra by Kieran Gillen and Star Wars by Jason Aaron, being I read them every 6 months. The every 6 months rule. I like them so much that on average, I am going to be rereading these books every 6 months. Sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 6. But on average. I would say like the quickest I've reread a book was probably 1 month, and most recently that distinction I believe goes to Godzilla Justice League, but even then I want to say it was 2 months. But anyways, those two. These are my favorite Star Wars books I've read thus far. Enough said. So obviously the every 6 month rule works. This one's kind of in the middle. I liked Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant by Sabir Pirzada and technically co-written by Iman Vellani. But I don't know how much Iman Vellani actually wrote of this and how much of it was Sabir Pirzada. Because Pirzada, I want to say, Pirzada. But Iman Vellani is the voice. Iman Vellani plays the role of Ms. Marvel in the Ms. Marvel TV show and The Marvels. And then she liked the character so much that she wanted to write her own Ms. Marvel graphic novel series, and they let her do that. Which I think, like, no matter how you feel about that character, I think that is something that no one should ever take away from her, should ever discredit her for. And I thought it was good. I thought it was good enough, but I wasn't like super. I still have yet to read anything that any Ms. Marvel run that I like as much as G. Wilson's Ms. Marvel run. The closest Ms. Marvel run that I've liked that would consider to be better is probably this. G. Wilson has written definitely the most of Ms. Marvel because she created a character after all, so why wouldn't she? And everyone that's come out after her has either had a 5-issue miniseries or like a 15-issue miniseries. In the case of Jody Houser and Saladin Ahmed, respectively. But Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant. Godfell by Christopher Sabala. This one, if there is ever like a technical fourth criteria, there is a technical fourth criteria, and that's I want to like refresh my memory. Now, the third criteria is refresh to because I want to finish off the series. Like, they didn't have volumes 9 and 10 of this series, so I want to reread the series as a whole now that they have volumes 9 and 10 at the local libraries interloans through the interlibrary loans through the library's interloan system. I'm able to read volumes 9 and 10, so read to refresh. And then I can finally, the first 8 volumes I've read before, reread those, then 9 and 10 I can read for the first time ever, and I'll finally finish off that series. Now, Godfell, this is the complete series. This is all in one. But this one is just so much happens in this book because there's already oversized issues that like as far as like the length of the issues go, and there was a lot. I feel like there's a lot that I missed. I did go back. I did go back and read. If I was on like issue 5, let's say, I missed a few details. I go back to the first few pages and refresh my memory there. And then I continue on and try not to do that. Try to do that again. I just feel like I should do that. I just feel like I wanted to reread it again because of that reason. But mostly it's every 6 months because I really, really dug this, and I consider it to be Christopher Sabella's magnum opus thus far. Haven't read a whole bunch from him, but everything I've read by him, I haven't been super impressed with. Actually, I've read 4 series. Off the top of my head. It's Godfell, obviously. Welcome Back. Dirtbag Rapture, which I absolutely hated. And Blink. What was it? I believe it was called Blink. But those, the one he did for Oni Press, if that narrows it down. Or I think it was IDW. No, Oni Press. That narrows it down for you. Because again, I believe it was called Blink. It very well could not have been called Blink. I could just be thinking of another. I could just be thinking. I could get it very well could be called Blink, but I also think that I could possibly be getting it mixed up with another book, like getting it confused with another book. The title of these, obviously, getting it confused with another book. I have done that before, but I cannot remember what I did it with, what exact book I did it with. Batgirl Volume 1. This is the Batgirl of Burnside. Convergence version of Batgirl, and quite honestly, I outright hated this book the first time I read it, and the second time, and I don't think the third time will be the charm. This is honestly more of a reread to refresh more than a reread to redeem. A reread to redeem. I honestly when I was talking about Godfall, and I accidentally said refresh to reread to redeem, but it was reread to refresh technically, and also every 6 months. Same way that we enjoyed it. But reread to redeem is when I read something for the first time and I absolutely hate it, and I'm like, maybe there's something. I mean, maybe, and then later down the line, I'm like, maybe there was something like, I don't know, because I'll reread a book 6 months later and end up liking it a lot more than I did the first time. And and that happened with Gotham Academy. I read it like 1 year later, and it completely changed my mind about how I felt about the book. It went from like a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. That's how significantly more. That's how much more I liked it. Like just a significant amount of enjoyment. More so than I did the first time. I no way of saying that the right way. It's gonna sound awkward no matter how I say it. But anyways, Batgirl of Burnside, I honestly consider to be one of the worst Batgirl books I've ever read, and definitely one of the worst comics I've ever read. Batgirl, it shouldn't technically count, but it kind of does. I very good amount of Batgirl. But everything Gail Simone's run did, which will be you'll know how I felt about that run when I review the most recent volume, and also the last volume of Gail Simone's Batgirl run. You know how I felt about that book. And this book does everything that Gail Simone set up and throws it out and throws it in the garbage, and Brendan Fletcher does his DC superhero girls kitty version of Batgirl. And it is basically like that. Maybe she says Helen Dale a couple times so they get that teen rating, but for the most part, this is essentially, especially when being compared to Gail Simone's run, the DC superhero girls kitty version of Batgirl. But this is supposed to be the same Batgirl run that Gail Simone started. Now on to my favorite graphic novel of all time, and that is Preacher. This is book 5, written by Garth Ennis. Again, my favorite comic of all time. Enough said. You know why I'm rereading that. Brendan Fletcher, by the way, for Batgirl. I know I mentioned it, but I fucking didn't. The Astonishing Ant-Man by Nick Spencer, Volume 1. So this is the Astonishing Ant-Man, so I guess they can... yeah, so in the back does it say Astonishing Ant-Man? Yeah, so I guess there they can justify the new number 1. He says, no, this is Astonishing Ant-Man, not Ant-Man. It is very annoying. It does kind of piss me off, honestly. But, whatever, I guess. But this is the actual Volume 1 of Nick Spencer's run. This is Second Chances. This is the actual Volume 1. This is not. This continues on what Second Chances set up. And reread every 6 months. And that's gonna be, so far, it's gonna be closer to every 6 months because of how wordy that first volume was. Again, like I said in that review, it rivaled the Silver Age, in terms of how wordy that book was. A lot of dialogue that most of which, I'll be generous, that some of which was not all that necessary. At all that necessary. Next up, we have Captain America, Castaway in Dimension Z. This is Volume 1 of Rick Remender's Captain America run, which I remember really, really enjoying. I thought it was a really unique story, and definitely Rick Remender, definitely a Rick Remender comic. If you know your Rick Remender, it's gonna have a lot of those tropes, but in a good way. Transmetropolitan Volume 2 by Warren Ellis. Continuing this series that every single year I read it, it just becomes more and more topical and more like you can draw more and more connections to what's going on in today's political world, political climate, if you will. And this book was released way back in the 90s. I think it was later 90s. I want to say around the same time as Preacher. Now, that one, even though I said it's obviously every 6 months or so, every 6 month rule, but it really is closer to every 6 months rule, not just because it's 10 volumes of book, but also because I like it, but it kind of is a chore to read at times. Not like an actual, no, saying it's a chore to read is actually insulting it. It's kind of like not it's in between. It walks the fine line between being a chore to read and being fun to read sometimes. But most of the time it's really good. It's my 6th favorite graphic novel for a reason. It's in my top 10 for a reason. At the very least, it's in my top 10. But maybe it's closer to number 10 than it is to number 5. Because I think of other graphic novels that I like more. Flash by Brian Buccellato. Again, this run is just really solid, and like with Batgirl by Gail Simone, it was so good, so solid, that I consider myself a Flash fan, but I've only read this and a couple of other Flash runs. But I haven't really finished any of those Flash runs. I started reading Jeff Johnson's, didn't finish that. I didn't even finish the graphic novel at book 1. I guess I was halfway through that book, and then I gave up on it, but then I stopped reading it. Not because it was slow like everyone else said it was, but just because I had other books to read and kind of put that to the side, and then I forgot about it. I believe that's what happened. I don't remember dropping it because it was boring. But other than that, I really had to think of what I've read. I read some orphaned issues of Flash, like just like random issues here and there. But I consider myself to be a Flash fan because even though I'm only like an actual like almost hard. Like, I wouldn't say like I'm like a casual fan of the Flash, but even though I am, but that's only because of how much I've enjoyed reading this run and how much I've reread this run too. So obviously every 6 months rule. Same pretty much goes for Wonder Woman. I went for the Flash, but I would say I definitely read more Wonder Woman than I have Flash. Even the follow up, the not Marguerite Bennett, the who did Rose? Who wrote Rose? Meredith Finch. Even the Meredith Finch run, I consider to be still really solid, but obviously not as good as Brian Azzarello's run, but a worthy follow-up nevertheless. Like, that's what Brendan Fletcher should have gone for. Not what he did, but the less about Batgirl, the better. But maybe I'll reread Batgirl and it'll become the next Gotham Academy, where it starts out as a reread to redeem, but it quickly evolves into, after just the first volume, quickly evolves into a reread every 6 months. I actually said that at first. Then I remember. Actually, I think I uploaded it, and I realized at that point I was like, wait, no, it started out as a reread to redeem. I completely forgot about that because of how much I liked Gotham Academy. So Brendan Fletcher is obviously worthy. Not worthy. Is obviously has the potential to write something that is solid, but with Batgirl he just chose not to, I guess. And it's not just because of like it being more like maybe more uplifting and more like lighthearted, but it was just like it was just not Batgirl. The character he writes is not Batgirl. And you can tell right out the bat with that cover. And Gail Simone's run, it would be done more as an obligation, not as a joke. And then Brendan Fletcher, he wants that right front and center. He wants you all to know, oh, Batgirl's doing a selfie. Ain't that funny? Ain't that random? She's so quirky. But Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello. I said Brian Bucalato. But Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello. One of the best runs of a character ever. So obviously every 6 months rule. Now on to the last reread. And after this book, they'll all be ones I'm reading for the first time. But the last, but certainly not the least for the rereads, is Scalped by Jason Aaron. Obviously, every 6 months rule. I absolutely adored this comic. And this is the one I was talking about, where they have all 10 volumes now, and I cannot wait to finally finish off this series. That will definitely be in my top 5 after I finish it. Top 5, the only exception is that it has to be, at the very least, like all of that character's run. Like, it has to be all of Roger Stern's. I had to have read all of Roger Stern's run on Spider-Man for that to be considered as my top 5. And ironically enough, my top 5, none of it is. I actually don't think any of it's superheroes, and none of it is from the big two. They're all independent books. Technically, I mean, Preacher is from DC, which is part of the big two. But I mean, like I consider even DC Black Label to technically be an independent book. Like, it's not part of it. No, even then. But technically speaking, all 5 are creator-owned books. I'm gonna say it's creator-owned too. Like Preacher is from everything from Vertigo is creator-owned. I don't know, but my top 5 goes as follows: Preacher, Sin City, The Walking Dead, Paper Girls, and I know I'm forgetting one. Oh, and Walking Divine. That's my top 5. Other than number 1, and as in no part, other than the top 2, no particular order. So 3, 4, and 5 can basically interchangeable. Anyways, now we're on to the ones I'll be reading for the first time. I think it's 12, isn't it? Yeah, I said it was 24. Let's see. Let's see if I'm right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, we have 12 left. So 24. And that's why I took out those 2 Star Wars books. I chose Star Wars. I took those 2 out. And I'm gonna reread the. I'm gonna reread. It was a reread. But I'm going to read those right at the bat, along with Avengers World and Gasolina. So you'll be getting a review of all those books plus Fire and Ice. I'll be filming it for Sunday, because I'm trying to finish them out for Sunday. So Sunday will be the last day. So on Monday, that next week, I can get right on the new books. Again, I was just finishing up. I know I wasn't going to be able to finish up Avengers World until a little bit later, so I was like, you know what, let's do this. And, of course, the OGNs I had 6 of. Well, actually, now it's 7. Alright, now on to the ones I'll be reading for the first time ever. First one up is Doppelganger by Jordan Hart. I was surprised when the library had this. Yeah, it was interloaned, but I was so surprised any library in my area had this. This is from a publisher I've never heard of before. Alterna Comics. Hopefully this one is good. I have since read his Dread the Halls one-shot from Image Comics, and the stories that he wrote were extremely solid. very short because they're anthologies, so it falls under that that little curse, if you will, of anthologies have of them being too short to tell any real story. But it was still investing. I left it wanting more, but not in a way like, oh, it just ends and they were obviously gonna write more, but it's just it's a pilot for a comic series, you know. It didn't really feel like it didn't really feel like that. It just felt like if they wanted to write more, they could from that world that they set up, or that he set up, because it was Jordan Hartnett. He wasn't teamed up with anybody. Where Starships Go to Die, written by Mark Sable. Hopefully this one is better than his... Spit it out. Than his Batman Two-Face Scarecrow book that I absolutely hated. In terms of Aftershock, they're pretty hit or miss. Honestly, they're pretty hit or miss. In terms of Aftershock comics, and honestly, they're pretty hit or miss. Although, actually, I'm like I only say that because of We Live. But I reread We Live, and I really enjoyed it. Anyways, moving on to King's Watch, written by Jeff Parker. This one, again, like I'm going in blind with most of these, but this one, all I had to see up here was Flash Gordon, the Phantom, and Mandrake to get an idea of what it's going to be about. Mandrake I know nothing about, but I do know a little bit about Flash Gordon and the Phantom. Not like to say, oh, these characters, this is their powers, they even have powers, but I know that they're like really old superheroes. Actually not superheroes. Vigilantes. I don't know about in the case of Flash Gordon, because I think Flash Gordon, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it more sci-fi? I don't know, but I know it was a movie that came out in the 70s for Flash Gordon, and I just hit my glasses. I just did this. That's why I was trying to push them up. I hit the glass, and it was a smudge. But Flash Gordon, I will always remember them making fun of it, or not making fun of them, watching it in the first Ted movie. But King's Watch, Jeff Parker. Yeah, now all I see is that. It's already pretty filthy, but all I can see is a little fingerprint smudge. Next one up is not all I can see, but when I try and go this way and I go under the light, that's what I see. Anyways, Ninjak Volume 1, or is Book 1? Book 1. Sometimes it's Volume 1, sometimes it's Book 1. Also written by Jeff Parker. This is from an independent publisher called Valiant. And of all the independent publishers that I read from, I would say Valiant is at rock bottom. I have not read pretty much everything I've read from Valiant has been mediocre to terrible. Nothing I can think of out the top of my head has wowed me. Hopefully Jeff Parker's Ninjak breaks that curse. The only book to do that, ironically enough, was also the only Tim Seeley books I like. Because I don't consider him to be a good writer in general. In the sense that I don't like his work. I wouldn't say a bad writer, but he's kind of like a writer. I don't like anything I've read by him. Apparently his most recent Rogue series is really good. The Rogue Savage Land. But he did Bloodshot. He did a reboot of that series, or reimagining. Reboot, it doesn't even sound right either, but a new number one, like a new series. He did that for Valiant, and I really liked it. But I only read issue 1 of it, so I don't really consider it to be. I don't really consider it to be a contender for my favorite Valiant book, and the one that broke the curse, or anything like that. Because I only read issue 1. I do want to read more of it, but only the library has it. Only the local library has it, and they don't. Not even through Interloans. And it's too, for their, like I was saying, for their materials request book that I got Fire and Ice from, it has to be released within the past year or so. And because because we're only 3 months into 2025, 2024 still counts. But maybe even March. Like I can't get anything like it was in January of 2024. But I'm sure they'd be fine with that. They still consider to be within the past year. But anyways, Suicide Squad Volume 5, written by Matt Kindt. But unlike Volume 4, this is all written by Matt Kindt. And you wanted to know what Matt Kindt did for Image, she did this one series. It's just into one book, and it was even then it was an OGN, and it was Cosmic Detective. It was co-written by Jeff Lemire, but I honestly consider it to be more of a Matt Kindt book than a Jeff Lemire book. The more I read Jeff Lemire, I'm like, are you sure about that? So I think I need to reread Cosmic Detective. But even then, like, I had read enough of Jeff Lemire at the time to know that it's more of a Matt Kindt book. But now that I'm reading more, and it's not like I take a break from it for a long time like I had before. When I said that before, maybe my mindset will change, but I don't think it will. At least not significantly. Anyways, next book up is Batman: Gates of Gotham. This, along with Scalp, were the two that I had taken. They were the two books that weren't in at that time I did the first cut. But now that they're in, I want to do a second cut. But this one is written by 3 Image writers, and that is Scott Snyder, Kyle Higgins, and Ryan Parrott. According to the credits page, Scott Snyder and Kyle Higgins do the story, where Ryan Parrott does the artwork. So, let me see how long we're going to be on for. 44 minutes already, and we got still a little pile to go. Yeah, actually, lots of pile to go tonight. We're going to go through than I thought we did. But this was one that, first of all, took forever. It took a little while for it to go from awaiting approval from other libraries, potential libraries, to being in transit, which means transit means it's officially available to be interloaned to you. It took a while, but going from transit to arrived, one day, it was insane. I did not expect it to come in today. And after a while, I didn't expect Scalp to come in because I wasn't showing Scalp for a long time. But the person, it was just because the way they put in books is that you'll get, it's one big one. Like if you have, like, say you have 5 books and they're all one's Sin City, Preacher, Looking to Divine, Walking Dead, and Paper Girls. You'll get Paper Girls, then Walking Dead. Maybe the last 3 all at once, but usually it's like that. And I'm used to it. I'm used to it by now, so I'm always like, come on, I got one more book coming in. Let's get it in. Come on. And sometimes I'll lose hope. And then my hope will be regained when I see that book is coming in. Like, yay! It's a nice little. Honestly, it's one of those things that makes my day. So, like, I'm one of those people that, like, the smallest of things can make my day go from mediocre to all right to pretty good. You know, it would never be like from like incredible, flawless, but it does definitely make my day sometimes when I see that last book come in that I thought wouldn't come in. But anyways, Batman: Gates of Gotham, written by various, but by Scott Snyder, Kyle Higgins, and Ryan Parrott. I already mentioned it, but I guess it's like, you know what, I'll mention it again. This one is another one that's another Batman book, and another one that's written by Scott Snyder and Kyle Higgins. But this time, they are teamed up with James Tynion and Ray Fox and Tim Seeley. But this is Batman Eternal, Volume 2. I don't know if I don't know if Volume 3 was there. I thought I saw it, but I also was like, no, you didn't see it. You thought you did, or you just assumed it would be there, but I don't think it is. If anything, I gaslit myself into thinking that I was. Gaslighting myself into thinking there was a Volume 3. I'm hoping there is, because this series so far has been really damn good. Volume 1 blew me away, and really impressed me. It wasn't like it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was just very investing, and this one of those underrated books. But Batman Eternal, Volume 2 of 3. Maze Book by Jeff Lemire. This was one that I just kept putting off, and also completely forgot about. Oh, this is only issues 1 through 5, and it's a pretty thick book. It says there's a sketchbook at the end, but is each issue double the length, or is it just the sketchbook section is so expansive? Let's see. Sometimes the paper quality they use will be thicker, so it looks like 20 pages will look like 40 pages. And it'll add up. No, kind of seems like it goes for a very long time. Alright, doesn't really matter because I'm not reading right now, so it does not matter. But Jeff Lemire Maze book, one I've been putting off forever, and then when I remembered about it, I was like, I'm reading this right now. I want to check this out right now. I almost did it last time. That's how excited I was to read Maze book, because it was one of those books that it was coming out when each individual issue of the 5-issue miniseries was coming out. It was back when I was getting floppies, and I was so upset they didn't have the series. And then when the the hardcover came out, I think that was when I was collecting Image anyways, from Dark Horse. So I was like, you know what, hold off on it. And then I just completely forgot about it until most recently. So very excited to read this book. If I had to pick one I was most excited to read, Maze book would definitely be in the consideration. And that I'd be more saying for. So this one wouldn't count, even though this is one I haven't read for the first time. Oh, sorry. Even though this next one will be one I'm reading for the first time, I do not consider to count it as one I'm excited to read, because this is volume 2 of Stumptown. I already like the series so far, so it's like, I don't really count that as one I'm really excited for. The one exception is it has to be one I'm reading for the first time, and it can't be a volume 2. It has to be a volume 1. I know it sounds dumb, but that's how I am. But Stumptown, volume 2. Written by Greg Rucka. 3 more. Avengers X-Men Axis by Rick Remender. This is one that I was gonna, because I think this is smack dab, and this takes place smack dab in the middle of his Uncanny Avengers run. So I was gonna read Uncanny X-Force, then however many volumes of Uncanny X-Men, or however many volumes there were of, I was gonna reread his Uncanny X. You know what I was gonna say. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm gonna say again. I was gonna read his Uncanny X-Force series for the first time, not reread. Although technically now it'll be partial reread, because I started reading it and then I gave up. Because I kept reading about it. And I was like, you know what? Just go, when I read this again, I have time to read it again. It'll be from the beginning. I think what I should do is just read it straightforward, read it straight through, and just not take any breaks whatsoever, no matter what. And I was gonna read most of his Uncanny Avengers run until Axis comes up, and then read Axis. But I just did not care after a while. I was like, you know what? I've always want to check out Axis, because it has a it's one of those infamous Marvel Comics events, and I want to check out what the fuss is. I want to see what the fuss is all about. So I wanted to give it a shot. And so I checked it out recently. Obviously, as you see my hand now. But Avengers X-Men Axis. When the Marvel heroes went evil and acted like Saturday morning cartoon villains is the main criticism of the book. They love the premise, like everyone else loves the premise, but apparently the landing was not stuck. Sticked. It did not. Apparently, according to criticisms and critics, they did not stick the landing at all. All right. Captain America: Winter Soldier. What's funny is that my local library book, they had both the hardcover, the oversized hardcover, and the standard size trade paperback. I almost got a paperback, but this one, I was like, you know what? No, get the oversized hardcover for this groundbreaking series. Now this is one. So Ed Brubaker, I only have one series from him, like in general. But I'll be reading this and then Winter Soldier, and then after that, I probably won't get any more, except for Gotham Academy. Not Gotham Academy, Gotham Central. I know it's dumb, but that's the way I am. And that's technically, it's co-written by Greg Rucka, so technically it's a Greg Rucka book too. Well, it is a Greg Rucka book too, but technically it's like I've been reading it for Greg Rucka, but not for Ed Brubaker. Even though I don't know, And anyways, moving on to the last book, and that is Doctor Who, written by Robbie Morrison. Now it starts out by being written by a completely different guy, and that is Nick Abazidas, who has done nothing for Image. So it starts out as the second. That happens sometimes. Sometimes it's co-authored by like Philip Kennedy Johnson, but it's actually written by Scott Snyder. That does happen sometimes, but you just have to say screw it and not care. But that, as I say, is that. Now, why Doctor Who? Well, that was all I had from. That was all I had. That was from like Robbie Morrison from any library, from any library in the state for intro loans. That's all I had was Doctor Who. And it said, and I wanted to go in chronological order, so I didn't want to go to 12th Doctor first. I wanted to go to 10th Doctor first. And I was surprised to find that there was supposed to have a super oversized hardcover. And this is like, I almost want to say, bigger. Yeah, it actually is bigger than Omnibus, I want to say. Actually, is it? I'm pretty sure it is. But it's that, yep. So this is officially the size of your absolutes. I'm almost positive. Captain America, judging it how it looks like it's omnibus size. It's oversized hardcover, and I know it is. So this is, because I was doing a size comparison. This is an absolute size. This is more the size of the absolute editions than your omnibus. So it is worth the $50 price tag. Honestly, that's pretty good. It's also thick. So here you go. But again, paper quality could be the reason for why it feels that thick. But anyways, that is, as I say, is that. You know what? No, I'm not gonna show Fire and Ice. It's Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville, if you want to know what it is. But it's not written by an Image Comics writer, so I don't want to show it off. I just want to talk about it because I will be reviewing it when I finish up the other books. But that, I'll say it'll be that. So this is being released before I finish up Fire and Ice, Star Wars, and Avengers World. Because technically, other than Avengers World and Gasolina, you had not seen the 2 Star Wars books yet. So I was like, I want to show those off, and then the next few after that will be me reviewing those books. And, of course, the OGNs. So, nice little stack, but also a small stack. Which is fine by me, because hopefully, by the time I finish up the bigger stack, when I finish like 20 of them, and I wait till then, hopefully by then my schedule will change, and I'll go back to at the very least, I'll go back to the way things were before. As far as my work schedule, I work at a school, for those of you who don't know, and by schedule I literally mean class schedule, because I'm a paraeducator. I help out kids with work when I need help, all that. But one of the things about being a para you get used to is your schedule changing out of nowhere. It's kind of annoying too, because you get attached to some of these kids and like this class itself, and like you're like, I like these kids, they're really well behaved, and they actually like me helping them out and all that, and then you get moved out of the class. But then some of these classes, I'm like, kind of glad I got me out of that class. That was not a fun class at all. Usually because of it being boring, or I don't feel like I'm as much of a help there because it's a math class, and math was my worst subject when I was in school, and I never ever thought about any of those concepts after I graduated high school, unless not even then. And because in college, like, it was pretty much like I had like one math class, so it was nice. But anyways, I prowled on enough. That's the end of this video.